The Tacoma has evolved over the years while still sticking to its roots. Some may argue a bit too much. If I were to oversimplify, I would say that there are many trucks in the class that can do what this truck can do while also being a bit more civilized. However, I think that this still has a very strong argument for itself. So stick with me and find out what makes the Tacoma the sales king. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell for notifications. That way you get quality content and I get closer to making this a full-time job. Thank you. Now back to the review. Now you're probably watching this when it is not holiday season, so for that, I apologize. I hope you're doing well. If you're watching it during the holiday season, I wish you a Merry Christmas or whatever you celebrate. Now if you're wondering how many Tacoma trims there are, there's a lot. So you're gonna start off with the base work truck, which is the SR. Then you will go up to the SR5, which adds some nice amenities. Then you will step up to the TRD Sport, then the TRD Off-Road, which I have here, the Trail Edition, which is based off of the SR5, and the Nightshade Edition is actually based off of the Limited, which is normally the top of the line trim. It's the one that's gonna have the most upscale appearance. And then you can also get the TRD Pro. Technically that's the range topper, and they're pretty hard to get. If you're wondering about what the TRD special color is this year, it is Lunar Rock, which looks pretty cool in person. Now I could bog this video down by pointing out every single individual difference between those trims, but holy shit, there are so many, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to highlight some of the bigger ones. LED headlights are an option, but they are not standard, even on the TRD Off-Road trim. And pretty much everything that you get is going to be a package. Just like American college is bundled with crippling debt and messy roommates, the LED headlights are bundled with LED fog lights, blind spot monitoring, and parking sensors. But you can also get a $5,000 package that bundles them with even more features, including heated leather seats. Several trims have multiple available packages, powertrains, beds, etc., so configurations are endless. While I'm talking lights, if you get the TRD Pro, you'll get unique rigid industry fog lights. If you get the TRD Pro, you're gonna have a big skid plate underneath. You get 9.4 inches of ground clearance with all of them. The TRD Pro does actually sit a little bit higher, but it still technically only has the same ground clearance. Are you a truck fan but feel bad about the lack of fake vents in the segment? Well, the TRD Sport and Pro have you covered with a non-functional hood scoop. There is no more desert air intake option. Really quick, I would like to thank Andy and Royal South Toyota for loaning me this Tacoma and an automatic limited Tacoma as well. If you're looking for a new or used Toyota, check them out. When it comes to appearance, I really like the front end of the Tacoma. It still looks like a macho and modern truck. What do you guys think? The side silhouette of the Tacoma is very traditional truck. Standard, you're gonna have 16-inch steel wheels. These are also 16 inches because this is the TRD Off-Road. The TRD Pro as well is going to have 16-inch wheels. You can also get, if you step up to the TRD Sport, 17-inch rims. The Limited is going to have some snooty 18-inch wheels. The base model is not going to have remote keyless entry. I'm not talking about the smart key. Like, you have to actually stick it into the door, which I'm kind of shocked. It's 2021. Not yet. You also cannot get a smart key with the manual transmission, even though standard, the TRD Sport and TRD Off-Road would get that. If you want to roll around in a Tacoma Limited, also known as the Taco Supreme, non-Nightshade Limited models get chrome mirrors and door handles. The TRD Pro and TRD Off-Road have upgraded suspensions with visible differences. If you get the TRD Pro, you'll get Fox shocks with a reservoir. These are Bilsteins. When it comes to configurations, you can get an extended cab standard that will only have 4 seats. You can also get the crew cab like I have here with a 5-foot bed that also offers the 6-foot bed from the extended cabs. The TRD Pro is only a crew cab 5-foot bed. Manual transpires will have limited configurations that I will dive into fully with my next in-depth manual transmission review coming soon. Subscribe for that one. Out back, you have the gritty looking Tacoma stamp on the tailgate. I recommend adding the remote lockable function. It works in your key fob, so it's convenient, and it might save your stuff or your tailgate from being stolen. Now there is the availability of a body colored bumper if you'd like it. You can tow up to 6,800 pounds with a rear wheel drive V6 configuration. 4-cylinder models will only tow 3,500. Now, the bed comes with a dampened tailgate. You do have an optional LED lighting. You have plenty of outlets. You have storage compartments that you will definitely forget you put stuff in. And then if you get the Trail Edition, you will actually have an ice box on that side and then another cargo container over here. So for like a contractor, this truck is, I mean, they probably weren't going to be considering it anyway. Really, this is more of a lifestyle truck. That 6-foot bed is definitely going to be the ideal choice for people who intend on using it. Before any Taco bros comment how their 5-foot bed can transport a small cottage, I understand that the space is usable, but it is bested in width by every mid-sized truck competitor in the US. This composite bed does have nice tie-down points and a rail system with neat accessories. Now to give you your daily dose of what in the actual fuck. The naturally aspirated 4-cylinder has a great payload capacity of up to 1,680 pounds. V6, SR, SR5, and TRD Sport models can haul more weight than the other V6 trims, but still roughly 100 less than the 4-cylinder, with the worst performing spec being the V6 limited 4-wheel drive, which tops out at 1,120 pounds, putting it near the bottom of the class. Let's hop inside. The actual quality, the fit and finish in here is pretty good. The materials, well, yeah, they don't feel the most high quality, do feel rugged. It just looks modern. Really, the interior starts to fall apart when it comes to space and ergonomics. So the actual cabin isn't very tall. I can say that actually I fit in here. My head is more than enough room, and Toyota actually improved the Tacoma for 2020 through adding a 10-way adjustable seat, which many people were crying for. And that really allowed me to get more thigh support because that was a huge problem. However, if you can't notice, this has very short cushions here. So thigh support still, it's not the best. To make matters a little bit worse, it moves an inch. While I'm glad that there is at least some adjustability here, the steering wheel is still pretty far away from me when I'm in a comfy position. Since the cabin is short, the seat has to be close to the floor too, which is a major contributor to the awkwardness of the cabin. If you get past the ergonomics in the space, you still might want to pick a fight with this infotainment system. Standard, you're going to get a 7-inch screen, but if you step up to the SR5 and above, you will get this 8-inch screen. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are now standard on all systems, and you actually get Amazon Alexa too if you like your privacy being invaded. But we're used to that at this point. Toyota fans will also be used to the slower response time of the screen. Still, I won't scrutinize this too much because the graphics aren't terrible, the unit itself is well implemented into the dash, and it's pretty simple. Taco buyers will likely appreciate those qualities more than a snappy experience. Toyota still does deserve a roast for this 2009 Lexus-looking surround view camera though. I also believe the cabin should have softer touch points for elbows. Weird notes, TRD Pro and Off-Road can display an inclinometer on the multifunction display, and if you get a manual transmission, the cup holders, which are plentiful up front, actually change position. Now when it comes to seating surfaces, you can get cloth, you can get leather, and then you can get these like kind of cool two-tone seats on the TRD Off-Road and Sport models. The Trail Edition will get unique cloth seats. V6 SR5 buyers and up will receive the 10-way power seats. 4-way seats are standard elsewhere. The leather in the Tacoma feels thick. You can opt for a manual transmission like I have here and get leather seats. Like I said, there are a ton of packages on this thing. You can get heated seats up here. TRD Sport models and up are going to get Qi wireless charging. All of them are now going to have dual zone automatic climate control, which is new for 2021. It's also worth noting that Toyota went with physical dials and buttons for most of the interior. All of these seem to be accessible with gloves on too, and they offer a reasonable amount of clicky feedback. Stock, you have 6 speakers. If you get the Limited or TRD Pro, you will get 6 JBL speakers with a sub. I listened to both, and I'll vouch for the JBL here. The bass system is adequate, but lacks the clarity at high volume and the punch of the subwoofer. The JBL is standard on TRD Pro, optional on automatic off-road and sport models. The steering wheel really gives you something to grab in this interior. It's massive, and it also has this nice perforated finish to it. I like the gauges too. They're simple. All models are going to get a little 4.2-inch multifunction display. Now, one thing that is kind of a Toyota truck classic is the ability to automatically move the rear window. And this one does that. It's just a little rear sliding glass. If you get the extended cab version though, you're not going to get that feature. Other than a slight gap with the glove box, the interior has great fit. The finish of everything is tasteful too. The cabin looks like a contemporary twist on a truck interior, and I'm here for everything but the seating position, tough rest points, and the lack of space, which is definitely felt in the back. The back of the Toyota Tacoma has storage cubbies, cup holders, but not very much space. I'm not gonna really sit like this. If I put my knees to the side, the door kind of gets in the way when I shut it, so it's just a little bit too compact. The seats are soft. The headroom is okay. This would work fine for 30 minutes for somebody of my stature with somebody of my size in the front as well. You can move the seat bottom up, and then you'll have a little storage compartment in here. And there's a little cubby back here that I'll show you with a crispy insert shot. Just like the interior and the exterior, when it comes to driving the Tacoma, your experience can vary depending on how it's configured. Now, luckily I have you covered because I have both the manual transmission, the automatic, the off-road suspension, and the regular suspension. So let's see how it handles. So I'd like to start out with the automatic transmission Tacoma because this is what most people are going to be driving. And right away, I'm noticing that it is stiffer than the TRD off-road. Oh yeah, look at that visor. Okay, sorry. The 3.5 liter in here makes 278 horsepower and 265 pound-feet of torque. The thing that I really would like to talk about is that the torque comes in at 4,600 RPM. Now that single number doesn't mean that like there's nothing there below that range. It's just not great. And when you pair that up with the 6-speed automatic in here that is usually pretty reluctant to downshift, you come out with a pretty uninspiring powertrain. It's a truck. I get that it's not supposed to be a sports car. I get that it's not supposed to make you tingle anyways, but this is not very trucky. You really do actually have to do what I just did to feel the extent of this engine. Standard, all Tacomas outside of the TRD Pro will have rear-wheel drive with high-low range part-time four-wheel drive available, but all come with Toyota's Trick Auto LSD that works really well and is activated when you shut off traction control. If you get a TRD off-road model, you will get a locking rear diff. Manual models are four-wheel drive only. Automatic, four-wheel drive, TRD off-road models come with crawl control, a special traction maximizing cruise control for off-road use. Manual off-road models come with A-Track, a tried and true traction control for trail use only. When hooning, TRD Pro buyers will appreciate a performance catpack exhaust system. At full send, the manual trans tied the auto in a 0 to 60 sprint with only one attempt needed. One thing I'd like to note, there's no auto stop start in here, which is comforting. Okay, so for this 0 to 60, I am going to shut off traction control. We're going to shut off the climate control and go. Foot to the floor. And 60. The 6-speed automatic does not shift too quick. The D4S system on the V6 Tacoma has direct injection and multi-port fuel injection. That helps it be kind of powerful and just as efficient as the 159 horsepower 2.7 liter 4-cylinder base motor. Still, neither of these powertrains are as efficient as much of the competition. The inline-4 is paired to a 6-speed auto only. Now let's try the manual transmission.
That was not a good second shift, and 60.
The Tacoma manual performed alright when compared to the auto. However, it too has its own flaws.
The shifter is actually reasonably crisp feeling. It also has this kind of weird springiness to it. I would say that quality is actually okay though. The clutch is kind of a different story. It's got a good weight to it, a little springy but not too bad. It also honestly doesn't feel too vague, it's just it bites kind of quickly. And that quality makes this just a little bit of a hassle to drive. And that paired up with the pretty tall first gear makes it definitely tricky for beginners, especially on hills. And that's another thing I'd like to note. The manual transmission does not have a auto hold. It does have a clutch start cancel. That's an off-road feature. You can kind of move the vehicle with just the starter motor if you wanted.
The 6-speed tranny is also loud, sometimes clicking and clunking into gear with its notchy shifter. After break-in, these become easier to drive, but some problems shine through. I have many thoughts on the stick, so make sure to subscribe for that manual review if you're interested. Now, let's take the Limited and the TRD Off-Road through a rough, twisty road.
Now, the comfort level of the Limited that I'm driving right now is adequate. The only thing is, I mean, it's bouncy, it's jittery over these roads. I mean, you can probably see it. There's a lot of vertical motion here. There's also definitely a noticeable disconnect between what the front and the rear wheels are doing over these bumps. Body roll. It's really not awful for a truck. Still got quite a bit of lean, but I mean, I've seen worse. The steering wheel is just big and it makes the steering feel just a little bit floaty, but it's not near as bad as the overboosted Toyota steering racks of old ages, like what I found in my parents' old Toyota Sequoia. If you've driven the current generation 4Runner, this feels like that. You can go over some pretty big bumps and nothing is going to jar you, but it definitely upsets the truck. You feel the bed and everything just kind of wiggle and jiggle about. Not that it feels like it's gonna fall apart, it just feels like the suspension and the chassis aren't all that dialed in. I know some of you are gonna be like, it's a truck, I don't even care if it handles like a potato on wheels. This is still competing against competent vehicles. The Tacoma just feels clumsy compared to a lot of even full-size trucks like the F-150, Ram, and honestly, over rough roads, I feel like the Tundra just handles better. It's more smooth. It makes you feel more confident and comfortable.
All Tacomas have numb, slow steering, which is usual for the class. I have driven the TRD Sport before and the ride was more firm than what is in the Limited, and it's in a different league than the bouncy off-road trim, which I'll hop into now.
The TRD Off-Road in specific has a softer suspension that really just makes it end up feeling more springy. I guess it's almost down to preference at that point. Do you want your ride to be bouncy or do you want it to be more stiff?
The rest of the trims have ride quality somewhere in the middle, but they all have clumsy characteristics. Still, the roughest imperfections won't crash their way into the cabin, and the ride on the highway is still reasonably compliant. In previous years, I noticed a really harsh brake pedal. Gladly, both of my testers had easy-to-use brakes. Brake dive is noticeable in the Tacoma, and it can win an Olympic medal in the TRD Off-Road. Performance is adequate despite the use of drum brakes in the rear. At least they'll require less maintenance. Speaking of archaic design, the Taco has typical truck leaf springs in the back, which are probably attributing to the springy ride.
Now, safety equipment. I am glad to report that lane keep assist, forward collision mitigation, automatic cruise control, it's all standard. The only optional thing is the blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert package. When it comes to noise levels, tire noise is definitely pronounced. Once you get to higher speeds, you start to hear wind noise as well, but it sounds like a $30,000 truck, so just don't get your hopes up even if you pay for the limited badge. I will have to say, I really do enjoy the limited interior. Personally, I've been eyeballing these for a long time because I just like the notion of a 6-speed manual transmission truck with 4-wheel drive and that really cool look too. Like, this is checking off so many boxes for me. And so now that I finally get to drive it, yes, I'm still kind of disappointed with how it rides.
I know that both transmission options aren't too refined, and the seating position would take some getting used to, but I still get the appeal. The Tacoma is stylish, it's capable off-road, the interior looks fresh, and the truck packs many features with immense configurability. I think those contribute to its success, but I have to state the obvious. The most important factor to the Tacoma package is reliability. Both engines have been used a ton in Toyota's lineup for at least 5 years. That aforementioned D4S system has been out for a while. It allows the engine to clean its intake valves unlike traditional direct injection, so it stays running better, without added maintenance. And there is no turbo to add moving parts or pressure. For the 3rd gen, there were a few problems with the automatic trans software and V6 engine software at the beginning of this generation, but that and many smaller problems have been fixed since 2018. Some also reported leaky differentials, but this too was confined to early models. Outside of an easily fixable AC drain drip problem that could cause rust, these are shaping up to be pretty robust. Additionally, resale values on these are extraordinary. Many times, it makes no sense to buy used. The Tacoma is not the best truck on paper or in practice, but Toyota knew what areas the Taco needed to excel at, and they nailed them. The Tacoma is a truck that can be configured to fit many lifestyles and desires, and after 10 years of use, everything should work, and it will still be worth more than many new cars. If you can overlook the awkward seating position and subpar handling, the Tacoma promises to be a good-looking, adventurous companion that's built to last. Thanks for watching, subscribe and hit the bell for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Backseat Freestyle, take one.